Good day to Dr. Wong Chi-ho. We are Finding Dory Group from PPA3162 Invasive Organisms. The topic that we are going to present is role model countries on invasive management. Do you know what is invasive species? An invasive species can be any kind of living organism that is not indigenous or native to a particular area. They can be introduced by humans intentionally or unintentionally, which results in significant impacts to the new area. However, not all non-native species are invasive. For instance, most of the food crops grown in the United States, including popular varieties of wheat, tomatoes, and rice, are not native to that region. To be invasive, the species must adapt to the new area easily. Since it can reproduce quickly, it will harm property and economy or the native plants and animals of that particular region. It has high dispersal ability and has tolerance of a wide range of environment conditions. They can cause extinctions of native plants and animals, biodiversity loss, competition between native organisms for limited resources, and alter the habitats. As a result, this can bring about negative economic impacts and fundamental disruptions of coastal and Great Lakes ecosystems. So how do we manage them to prevent from wide-range dispersal? There are various methods used for the management of invasive species such as biological control, chemical control, and physical control. By doing so, we can minimize the harm of invasive species on natural lands and encourage the health of native plants as well as wildlife. Australia, the United Kingdom, and 4 African countries such as Ghana, Uganda, Zambia, and Madagascar are the role model countries on invasive management. Our objectives are to identify role model countries on invasive species management and to determine how those countries successfully manage to overcome invasive species in their countries. Cassava mealbugs from Brazil was accidentally being introduced in Africa in the early 1970s, causing about 80% of crop loss for cassava production. The cassava mealbugs basically threaten almost the entire food base of Africa, since the cassava plant is considered as a staple food in Africa. Dr. Dylan Myler and Professor Shirley Adamo from the Dalhousie University stated that the cassava mealbug is an invasive organism that threatens the food base of 200 million people. The second invasive organism is the feral pig. In the year of 1788, feral pigs were brought from Europe to Australia by the First Fleet. Due to lack of management, the feral pigs managed to escape and be able to survive, caused their wild populations to increase over time. As the result, the feral pigs not only destroy the agricultural and threaten native biodiversity, but they contribute to the greenhouse effect by emitting carbon dioxide from the soil they excavate. The last invasive species is the grey squirrels that was brought into Britain and Ireland and caused the decline of red squirrels. The number of grey squirrels was reported to have reached higher than red squirrels. They can not only transmit squirrel pox virus that could be fatal towards the red squirrels, but they also fight and compete with other small relatives for food and habitats. They can damage the forest by removing the bark from the trees. As a result, it was estimated that around $1.5 billion to be spent on emolument loss of damaged timber, tree replacement, and squirrels control. Even though the country has been killing the grey squirrels to reduce the number of this species, their population still remains large. Every problem has a solution, and there's always a way to fix something. For example, the biological control in Africa. Biological control, also known as the biocontrol, is one of the ways to deal with invasive species. It also can simply be defined as the use of a single organism to combat a pest. In Africa, the parasitic webs are used to deal with cassava mealbug. Even though biocontrol is not a preferred method to deal with invasive organisms due to the risk of introducing new threats to the environment, it is considered one method that saved millions of lives in the 20th century. The Swiss entomologist Hans Rudolf Herrmann, who proposed the solution to save about 20 million lives, was awarded the 1995 World Food Prize.
In Australia, the coordinated hunting events was held to manage the invasive species. Feral pigs in Australia are the most damaging agricultural pest. Therefore, an organized hunting event was introduced. In the recent headhunting incidents occurred in Jambi, Queensland, there's at least 900 wild boars were killed. However, the use of helicopters for aerial control and other vehicles to aid in the hunt may cause significant carbon emissions. The long-term benefits of reducing wild pig population may outweigh the cost. In the United Kingdom, the government used birth control on grass squirrels to slow down new offspring reproduction. The squirrels would be planting seeds from the farm nuts, and if the government adorned the squirrels quickly, the natural woodland restoration in United Kingdom would be much slower. Therefore, the UK government introduced squirrel birth control instead of killing them, as it would keep the population in check. According to the reviews in 2011, injecting contraceptive in animals like wild horses and elephants works. This method was carried out by placing the immunocontraceptive in the hazelnut spread, which prevents the sperms from attaching to the egg receptors. The primary goal of managing the invasive species is to eliminate or reduce the population of invasive species. This is because the invasive species are capable of causing or reducing biodiversity, altering habitats, extinction of native species, and competing with native species for limited resources. By controlling the invasion of invasive species, this problem will reach a solution that could positively impact so many parties. Prevention is the most cost-effective and the safest method for controlling invasive species. Early detection of invasive species and fast response is far more effective than controlling. Invasive species may be subjected to control and management efforts if the eradication is not achievable. There are various methods for eradication, such as biological control, chemical control, cultural control, physical or manual control, mechanical control, and prescribed burning. In conclusion, the invasive species affect the economy, social, and environment, which often brings damage and pose a huge threat to natural ecosystem and agroecosystems as well. The impact runs through various issues of global interest, such as food security, sustainable resource management, and conservation of biodiversity. The invasive species are capable of bringing a threat to development through the impact on agriculture, forestry, fishery, and natural systems, which are an important basis of people's livelihood in many developing countries. If the invasive species were left uncontrolled, the usage of land will become very limited. Many countries will be facing economic losses through many drops in varieties of industries. Invasive species have to be bred and kept under control to make sure the sustainability of biodiversity is maintained and conserved, without any additional threats by an alternative that was pre-introduced by humans to solve a problem.